provide a bit more detail. Complementing, okay, complementing. Some of you might think, what do you call it, the textbooks, but some of my discussion not necessarily will be discussed in the textbook, right? But it's complementing because they also have other details. I think it's good. You also read the textbooks. Huh? Okay. Yes, public sector auditing for public sector organizations. Okay, and I think from this discussion, at least you can appreciate the differences. Okay, similarities and differences of audit. Okay, in public sector organizations as compared to private sector, and in the nature of the audit. Okay, as well as later on with the audit reports. So what will be the outcome of that? Okay, in terms of governance and oversight of government organizations. Okay. Auditing for accountability and governance of public sector organizations. Greater oversight, will that lead to greater performance and accountability or undermine innovation? All right, so just a remark there. External auditing conducted by National Audit Department, headed by Auditor General. Okay, so the officer is the Auditor General. Okay, but the agency is National Audit Department in the case of Malaysia, right? So, but in other countries may be Auditor General Office, okay, AGO, and so it depends from your country. So you have to check. But in the case of Malaysian government, it's a National Audit Department. Okay, but headed by Auditor General. But the post Auditor General is quite common name, Auditor General. And it should be independent from executive branch. Okay, so that's the idea. They are independent. So if you look at the structure of government, they are basically separate from the executive and directly appointed by the king. Okay, so in that way, they have that. I mean, auditors should be independent for them to undertake their works, for them to express their opinion for the attestation services, at least. Right, we also cover internal auditing and audit committee in the increasing role in public sector organizations. Okay, we discussed that as well. Then at the end, we also include public account committee. Right, so I think for all these themes or areas in the public sector accounting, budgeting, accounting, and auditing, okay, as part of the governance of government organizations. Right, a bit of definitions of governance: the combination of process and structures implemented by the board to inform, direct, manage, and monitor the organization activities to the achievement of its objective. Right, in the public sector, governance related to the means by which goals are established and accomplished. It also includes activities that ensure a public sector entity credibility, establish equitable provision of services, and assure appropriate behavior of government officials for better performance and reduce the risk of misbehavior. Okay, that's of course in that manner there's a role for audit as well. Okay, good governance in public sector. This one is provided by two IFAC reports. Okay, in 2014, International Framework, Good Governance in Public Sector. So I think the idea is the same. I think, okay, if you look at this governance, I mean, even if you look at, we discussed this right from the beginning with the budgeting process, okay? Okay, start from A, achieving, behaving with integrity, demonstrating strong commitment to ethical values, respecting the rule of law. Okay, so you can see that okay, with integrity, commitment to ethical values, and respecting the rule of law. So both are important. So not only complying to the rule of law, but it must be ethical. And even nowadays, people start mentioning moral values. Of course, in our country, we can also clearly mention about Islamic values. okay, for Muslim countries in particular. And the fact that in Malaysia, Islam is the constitutional religion, okay, so it's become the underlying basically values and also practices when we discuss about the law, and definitely in this case. So sometimes law alone is not sufficient to control the overall at the government level as well as the society level. In this case, definitely for government organizations. Be ensuring openness and comprehensive stakeholders engagement. So you can see that stakeholders engagement is key when providing the right services. And I think it's quite good in the sense that I think if you look at the exam answers and all that, I think many of you basically have accepted this part of way to manage any organizations in private sector or in public sector organizations. And then C, defining outcome in terms of sustainable economic, social, and environmental benefits. Okay, so you can see clearly at the global level promoting SDGs. Okay, and not only by the private sector, the government as well, and both sides as our partners in promoting the sustainability. Determining the intervention necessary to optimize the achievement of the intended outcomes. I think at this point, you see the word outcomes is commonly used. I think we discussed this. At this point, you should have a good idea what outcomes mean. Okay, in the case of, particularly in the case of public sector organizations, developing the capacity, managing risk, okay, and performance to robust internal control and strong public financial management. So you can see clearly the role of accountants, or the role of accounting in there. And implementing good practices in transparency, reporting, and audit to deliver effective accountability. Okay, so in this good governance, so audit, okay, is key, beside financial reporting or performance reporting, okay, to achieve accountability. Okay, so this accountability and performance are basically, it's like two sides of the same coins. Okay, so to be able to have good performance, so the accountability side must be kept must be observed. Okay, the role of auditing and governance of public organizations, achieve accountability and integrity, improve operation, instill confidence in citizens and stakeholders. I think overall that will be the impact of audits. Okay, so I think there's an ongoing effort to improve the auditing process. Right, principles of governance, setting direction, instilling ethics, overseeing results. These are based on the Institute of Internal Auditors. I think they also provide good guidance. The conventional wisdom is that government cannot be effective in the absence of public trust. Government auditors play a central role in fostering such trust. They've even been referred to as the guardian of public trust. Without them, citizens will lack credible insight into the soundness of the many inner workings of government. Okay, so that's how the critical role of auditors for public sector in public sector. Right, quality of audit in public sector. Okay, these are some of the principles provided still by the Institute of Internal Auditors. Okay, definitely independence is very important. Okay, to be independent from the auditee in entities. A formal mandate, okay, that whatever they undertake, they have sufficient mandate to undertake their audit works, so that the quality of audit findings can be achieved. Unrestricted access to accounts and evidence, right? So then the auditee entities, when they are requested to provide all the relevant documents, okay, they should provide. Okay, there is no restrictions. For that, then the auditors can deliver or discharge their works properly. Sufficient funding, okay, so must be supported, okay, well, by the government. Competent leadership. Scope of audit sectors, scope of public sector audit. So the scope of audit, I think we also will cover later. So what the type of audits will also reflect the scope of the audit. Objective and competent staff, okay, staff competencies to undertake audits. Because audit, I think they must have special skills, professional skills. Okay, one of them definitely, what do you call it? Professional skepticism, isn't it? Okay, so that kind of questioning, try to ask relevant questions. I think asking relevant question, the right question, that's what you need to always develop in your, as part of your training. I think that's why I think it's good for many of you if you want to start your professional work. Okay, you start with audit so that to develop that kind of insights. One of them definitely, be alert in your environment surrounding, because they can also trigger, the issue. Okay, stakeholder support, professional audit standards. I think that's what the adoption of the professional standards. I think with this page, there is notes, so you can have a look and check. Okay, look at the notes. Okay, I'm not going to discuss here, but at least keep more elaboration on all these principles. Right, come back to the audit. In the case of Malaysian government, okay, the government agencies preparing the financial statements. Of course, at this point, the role of Accountants General Department, and then some of the government entities are there. They are self-accounting bodies, okay, preparing financial statements. Then, of course, this financial statement will be audited by the National Audit Department with the audit report. Then it will be submitted to the Parliament under Public Account Committee. Okay, the accounts will be scrutinized. So, who will be answerable? Anyone remember? Who will be answerable to Public Account Committee? That person, your good friend in PSA, Public Sector Accounting? Anyone?
Controller.
Controlling officer.
Yeah, controlling officers. Controlling officers, okay. Mainly, they are the chief secretary of the ministry. Okay, appointed civil servants. Right. So I give you, this is a website for National Audit Department. Okay, I think we can have a look. Right. Basically, hold on. Yes. Press coverage. Okay, I think they also provide dashboard here. Okay, action by the Auditor General Office based on Auditor General report. Okay, so very latest, look at this. Statistics, the updates up to 30th November 2020. Of course, based on the various ministries, there are 28 ministries. Okay, so based on the audit report, these issues need to be addressed. So they share that. Complete inaction. Okay. Maybe have a quick look. Okay. Definitely you can get a copy of the reports, right? What will be in the auditor reports, particularly these are the web, the media coverage. I think have a look. Some of them are interesting. I think not all of them interesting. Okay. Right, have a quick look. That is the, okay, now we move on. Okay, with that audit report, right, types of external audit in public sector. Okay, there are three types of audit in public sector. First one is financial audit, compliance, and performance audit. Okay, so for today we'll cover up to compliance. Okay, performance audit I will cover in the next class, which is the next Monday, inshallah. Next Monday, yes. We still have 1 week, all right? Next Tuesday, Next Tuesday. So on performance audit. Right, so if you look at financial audit, ministries and departments by the National Audit Department directly, whereas statutory bodies and public enterprises by public auditors on behalf of National Audit Department. Okay, so public auditors including Big Four and other public auditors or public accountants. Okay, so and these are including the government-linked companies or government companies, government-owned companies. Okay, at the federal level as well as state levels. Okay, so will be audited by National Audit Department. But since the numbers are many, hundreds of them, then definitely they have to use public auditors. So the public auditors or public accountants firms, okay, including Big Four, definitely, they become the panel auditors registered under the National Audit Department. So with that, they can work on behalf of the National Audit Department. So they use the report. And I think even like if you look at our university, I think last time was audited by EY. So as an example, of course, like IIUM is a public entity, but audited by public auditors. Okay. But in the case of ministries and departments, definitely the audit team is coming directly from the National Audit Department. Okay, compliance audit, right? Basically compliance towards the rules and regulations, particularly with regards to Financial Procedures Acts and Treasury instructions and circulars. Okay. Right, financial audit, of course, obviously quite similar to the private sector where financial statements are being audited. Okay, and it is basically annually. So financial audit is undertaken annually, just like in private sector. So not only that, the national audit also they provide advice. It's like for management report to the top management. Right. So the scope, the financial statements, including for the federal government, state government, city bodies, local government, and state religious council. Okay. So even state religious council in terms of auditing, okay, undertaken by National Audit Department. All of you, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next is compliance audit. Okay, compliance audit. So in this compliance audit, some say that it's similar to internal control, but obviously it's basically complying to the rules and regulations and procedures. Okay, particularly because there are specific mandates, specific laws that for government organizations to comply. Okay, and also treasury instructions and all that. Okay. So compliance audit are basically are there. So if you look at in terms of standards, these are also provided by the international audit. Okay, so you can see you can download, look at the copies of the guidance by International Audit Organization. Okay, in this case, in Tonsai, they call it ISAI. Okay, in Tonsai, basically, I think almost definitely like National Audit Department, they are also member of this international organization. Okay, so they provide guidance. They provide guidance on compliance auditing. Okay, so you can have a look. So what would be needed to be done? Okay, that's compliance audit. And if you look at the frequency, the main difference between compliance audit and financial audit, compliance audit undertaken by spot check to the government bodies at least once in 5 years for each government entity. Okay. Right, and there is also the Financial Management Index, okay, provided by the National Audit Department as a reporting for compliance audit. Okay, this one, Financial Management Accountability Index. So there is a ratings introduced as a result for financial management audit. Okay, the rationale for introducing the FMI is to respond to concern over the instances of non-compliance and internal control weaknesses that have been repeatedly mentioned in annual audit reports. So it's a kind of star rating that for government agencies they are given star rating. So it's like a league table. So to make sure that, I think in government it works. If you talk about rating and it's like a performance reporting as well, where it provide pressure for the government agency to comply. Okay, and its objective is mainly to assess the extent of my financial management in ministry departments, state bodies, local authorities, and Islamic Legal Council. Okay, in adhering to financial laws and regulations. Okay, definitely it's a compliance audit. So if you look at the criteria of the assessment, okay, overall management control, budgetary control, receipt, these are all regarding the financial management, including in trust as well as financial statements. Right, so you can look here, some media coverage, okay, with regards to Auditor General report on compliance audit. Okay, National Auditor General Datuk Nik Aziman, Nik Abdul Majid, so it is a current Auditor General, that 2018, 16 or 24 ministries achieved the excellent level of National Audit Department's Accountability Index assessment. Okay, so these are the reporting. Of the 13 federal statutory bodies, there are 3 and 4 entities were rated excellent and good, respectively. So this being reported, this accountability index. Maybe we can have a quick look at on the dashboard. Okay, right. Jambatan audit. Audit. They have this rating accountability index. So you can have a look. But it's just that copy of the report, but since it's not really updated. Okay, so including the auditor reports, so you can have a look. Various reports are provided on the website, okay, for your more understanding. Yeah. Right, I think performance audit, I'll reserve that for next class. Performance audit. Right, I think pretty much that's for today. Right, if no question, is there any question for the class?
Sir,
Yep.
who audit the National Audit Department?
Oh, that's a good question. They are auditors and you need them to be audited. I think if there is any issue, then okay, never heard of that they're being audited. But I think as a government agency, definitely there must be ways of they themselves being audited, isn't it? Okay, good question. Actually, I have no answer. It's like you're asking me who audit the. Because as an entity, I get your point. That's one, but I think through internal control, that's one. The other is if there is any issue. Okay, I mean the members of parliament, but I think, yeah, at this point, maybe the question that you want to ask is, you know, are they independent, something like that, isn't it? Are they competent enough to undertake the audit? Okay, I think from I mean, if that is the question, then of course, you know, I think the auditors, there are two. One is the what do you call it? They have been trained, okay, internally by the National Audit Department. The other, there are also auditors that have been basically recruited from the private. So they were in the Big Four and all that. So they joined the National Audit Department. So you can see that their competencies, okay, can be developed. And National Audit Department also, they have this training center, isn't it? Academy Audit Negara. Okay, Academy Audit Negara. Yes, I mean, if you talk about their competencies, they have this training center. Okay, one of them definitely I think is in Nilai. Yeah, in Nilai. Yeah? So huge complex. So these are training center for the National Audit Department. Okay, in Nilai, just like the auditor, the accountants general, they have this what do you call it? Institute Accountant Negara, Accountant Malaysia, Accountant Negara. Yeah, this one. Right? Institute Perakaunan Negara. Yeah. National Accounting Institute. Okay, these are training center for the National Audit, Accountants General Department. Okay, so one of them is in the Cyberjaya, and the other is in the Kuala Selangor. Okay, anyone from Kuala Selangor? Basically at BNO, and where there is a polytechnics. I think integrated schools there. So by there is IPN, Institute Perakaunan Negara. So they have a good training center. So similarly in the case of audit, so these are basically human capital development. Yeah, in that sense, I think through training and as well as capacity. That's one. The other, of course, they are members of Intonsai as well. Okay, as I show you just now, Intonsai. Okay, yeah, they are a member of this International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions. Okay, so Malaysian National Audit Department is also a member of this. So I think these are all can be, sharing of knowledge and expertise, understanding. Okay, partly to answer your question. Very good question. Any other question? Okay, if not, then I will discuss on your midterm. Okay, you receive your midterm. So I provide the solution. Okay, can I discuss now? Yes or no?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So, I mean, it takes a bit long time to mark for some reason. Okay, so I think if you have a copy of your question, it's good so that you can follow the discussion. Okay, I think, of course, from one side is about exam, the other, of course, knowledge purposes. I think it's good to know. And yeah, so in a way also it's kind of preparation for your final exam as well. But these are the solution is suggested solution. So sometimes your answer can be different from this, but still you get marks. Okay, so not an issue. Okay, the first question with the following scenarios, please select the most relevant budgeting technique practiced by the public sector organizations. Justify your answer by stating one relevant feature or attribute of the budgeting techniques. So I think this question is basically you need to choose. I think we discussed about up to modified budgeting system, even including outcome-based budgeting, right? So you need to choose based on the scenario. And not only that, you have to state, and then you also have to state the feature of the or attributes of the techniques. Okay, that is relevant with the scenario. So you look at question number 1. Controlling officers express that performance of the organization as excellent. I received the report that they managed to fully utilize the budget allocations. So these are the scenario. So I think in this question, what is good is basically you see budgeting system as part of financial management system. Okay, as part of performance management system. All these procedures, all these, the way things being managed will affect the behavior of the managers. Okay, so I think in our class we did mention clearly. So basically, if you ask, is your performance? I mean, we can definitely at this point, right? You can be very comfortable with should be, yeah. So the type of measures being used will decide what can that you are performing well or otherwise. Okay. So in this case, the managers clearly mentioned that they are they are okay. The controlling officers express that their performance is excellent. Okay, I think in this question it's clearly mentioned. It's like if you receive your result, you will say like, oh, I'm achieving Dean's List, or my CGPA is 4.0. So basically, the controlling officer said my CGPA is 4.0. Okay, but what is the basis for that? For that claims. And the basis is they said because they managed to fully utilize the budget allocation. Okay, so in what budgeting techniques that is allow the controlling officers to behave in such manner? Okay, so obviously the best is in the traditional line item budgeting environment. If the line item budgeting is being practiced and then being recognized, that everybody is basically use that as the main matrix, and then fully utilized budget allocation is financial performance. They manage to utilize all the money, then their performance is excellent. Of course, I'm not saying that their performance is bad, whatever, because you must understand, when they utilize the budget, it's being supported by good planning. That's the condition. If the planning is good, then line item budgeting is also good. Okay, but there is limitation. Okay, the fact that we discuss other techniques, definitely line item budgeting has that limitation. Okay, but anyway, it's only possible for the control officers to express satisfaction with its performance by utilizing the budget is under a line item budgeting environment. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I think question one quite difficult because the average is pass 5 marks. Okay, I think the marks is 12. Yeah, I can say the average is in the middle, six marks. Okay. Okay, number two, of course, some students they can score well, but others also not much. Huh? Okay, of course, I mean, for you to be able to answer this, you really have to read carefully, all the concepts and understanding of the budgeting techniques. Huh? Okay. When restructuring the government machineries, one of the main concerns was to ensure that the government policies should be successfully achieved with clear line of responsibilities and achievable missions and vision for each government agency. Right. For this question, I think it was mentioned restructuring the government machineries. Okay, that's one. The other is clear line of responsibilities. Okay, that's two. And achievable missions, vision and mission. Okay, I think most students, they got it right. You choose planning and programming based budgeting. But I also consider accept MBS as the answer. Okay, so between these two. But line item is a bit too far to accept. Outcome-based budgeting, because there is also an offshoot of the planning and programming budgeting in MBS. Okay, so these two are basically can be accepted as an answer. Huh? Because it provides a good framework, because with the programming, okay, it makes that clear line of responsibilities. Huh? So the answer be either PBBS or MBS. 3, the budget negotiation between controlling officer representative and budget review officers was considered efficient, as the proposed budget was accepted with less disputes. This one, that's why I think it's an example of how you need to be really careful when listening to the lecture. Huh? So, and also understanding, okay, some of the mechanism being introduced. So because that's why I think all this, because this topic are under management accounting. Huh? So in management accounting, certain procedures are being introduced for a reason. Okay. So in this case, basically, is if you understand expenditure targets, Okay, so expenditure targets basically referring to this. Okay, modified budgeting, expenditure target facing program and activities. Okay, budget deliberation with BRO considered efficient because you know they heavily. This also is an example of what do you call it? I think that's the best answer for in the case of MBS. Okay, for number 3, number 4, there's been an outcry by general public due to overall poor public services despite very high taxation payment. I think in this question, because the first sentence require major revamp, okay, public overall poor public services. So I think I purposely mentioned this sentence to show that it's a very serious weaknesses in public services. Okay, with the mounting pressure from the public, the government decided to develop budget mechanisms that allow to regenerate public services that meet the need of taxpayers. So I think the best answer in this is zero-based budgeting. Okay, so need to revamp the entire services to be sure they are relevant to the public services. Some of you answer also MBS, I give marks. Outcome-based budgeting also I give marks. Okay, because there are attempts to basically revamp the public services. Okay, I found that question 1 is quite challenging for everybody, right? I think because you have to really make your own decision. It's not a matter of you know, just take from the lecture. Right, for question, any question for question 1? Okay, question 2. With your accounting and finance background, you are appointed as special advisor of a member of parliament recently. She was asking you to explain the following matters related to public sector organizations. Okay, briefly explain funding process of public sector organizations. I think the question about funding process, okay, they are not asking about source of finance, source of funding. They're not asking that. Okay, some of you I think mentioned taxation. Okay, of course that's source of funding, but here is funding process to public sector organization. It's just, you know, basically question asking about how they can get the money, okay, to fund the operation. Okay, so that's the question. So that's why in the exam, read carefully, and then answer the question. Okay, I think these are equally good. Either you are answering for exam question or at the, you know, at any level of exams. Okay, answer the question. That's as simple as that. If you don't answer the question, even you have the whole knowledge in the world, but still you're not answering the exam question, okay, the examiner very difficult to give you answer, to give you marks. Okay. Public sector organization receive funding for its operation development expenditures from budget allocation provided by the parliament. Okay, so the parliament, okay, need to be, then you know the approval process. The budget is distributed either in the form of warrants or grants through controlling officers who are accountable to the parliament. Okay, these are the suggested answer. But you also provide, you know, variants of your answers. But if I give you 2 marks, okay, that is basically considered acceptable for the full marks. And many of you get part of it. Okay, for question number 2, goods and services are provided by profit-making organization based on market demand, but public services are provided based on market failure. Explain. Okay, so basically, I think this question you need to highlight why, because market failure is mentioned there. Then why certain services not be able to be provided by the private sector entities? Okay, so that's why you know, if they don't earn enough profits, they're not going to provide even the services are demanded by the public. Okay, so that's basically even I give example. I think it's good if you explain, you give example. For instance, school and healthcare in remote areas are still provided even with less number of students or patients. Okay, this is an example of that public services is based on market failure. And as some of you say, it's costly, it's not making profit by private sector entities. This also can be accepted. But please do not, sometimes some of you rewrite the exam question, and then expecting that to be an answer. Definitely, hardly you can get marks on for that. So try to answer, like, give explanation. So I think that's more of that. Okay, number 3, advise 2 strategies to maximize budget allocation to best serve target stakeholders. Okay, so I think in this question, 2 strategies. Okay, maximize budget allocation to make sure that the target stakeholders. So I think in this question, before you can develop the 2 strategies, okay, you need to understand maximizing budget allocation. So it means that try to get as much as possible. I think these are testing you on. That was one of the issues discussed in the class on budget maximization. To best serve the target stakeholders. Of course, in my class, I always say for government agencies, they must have customers. Okay, whatever you name it, they must have customers. So their target stakeholders always their customers. So many of you they successfully highlighted target customers. Okay, customers, of course, it's a very big sweep that even government organizations use these concepts, right? So basically, so I said relevant strategies provided student with 2 marks each. So if you provide 2, what do you call it? Any strategies that is for me acceptable, I'll give you marks. Maximize budget allocation means the agency managed to get more budget allocation. These are the examples. To ensure agenda of the target customer become one of the priority areas of the current government. Okay, or the agencies, not only government or government agencies. And then secondly, to develop program and activities for target customers in line with overall policies area of the current government. For instance, use of contemporary digital technology, youth development to SME platforms. This also try to get for the controlling officers to justify for more budgets. Okay, they must also follow the framework provided by the Treasury, by the current government, for their programs to be supported. Okay. But other relevant answers I also accept. Okay. That's for number 3. Number 4, explain evolution of budgeting techniques in public sector to achieve value for money. I think in this question, they're not asking only evolution of budget techniques. So many of you just answer the first part. But the question also say to achieve value for money. Okay, so you need to a bit have more understanding. Okay, to achieve value for money, what need to be there? Okay, many of you, what you did is you just lay down listing the various techniques, budgeting techniques. And then also I give you marks, okay, but you cannot get full marks for that. But if you mention, okay, from input-based to outcome-based, okay, so to achieve greater value for money, budgeting techniques evolve from mainly input-based budgeting to outcome-based budgeting, focusing on result achievement. These are suggested answers. So clearly mentioning, okay, the involvement of the practice. So if you mention outcome, okay, input-based to outcome, these are basically you get full marks. Okay, that's for number 4. Number 5, evaluate program agreement in the context of level of accountability. So you should expect this kind of exam question, even in the final. So I don't just ask you to define what is program agreement or what is this, what is that, but I put context. Okay, so you give your opinion or your answer, but you must relate, okay, with the context of the question. So in this case, program agreement. Okay, you know program agreement, that's part of NDS. Okay, it contains all the basically contracts between the Treasury and controlling officers. I think many of you mentioned that. Very good. You mentioned, okay, it's contract between controlling officers and the Treasury, right? So even that I give you marks, okay? But in the level of accountability, so it means that it's supporting, okay, basic level of accountability or high level of accountability, okay? So I think that is need to be discussed, okay, to mention. Okay, program agreement contains output-based performance measure to support result-based accountability. Okay, so I think in the discussion of MBS, that MBS supporting the new public management, okay, focusing result-based accountability. With focus of outcome and impact for each program in providing relevant services to target customers. This is consistent with the best practice and the new public management and to hold public servants with a higher level of accountability using public money. However, KPI of PA were not informed and Treasury managed to give this. Aside, mentioning that that program agreement focusing on high level of accountability, but there is a limitation in terms of its implementation. Then you get full marks. Okay, any question for question number 2? Class? Okay, no question. All right, now I move on to question 3. I think question 3 quite straightforward, right? Please provide the best answer for the following. State one similarity between, okay? If you see the question, of course, you try your best. Clearly mention best answer. So in a way, give you that mindset of sitting for the final professional exam. No, I'm not trying of doing that. Okay, this only, basic testing your understanding. Okay, state one similarity between program-based budgeting, MBS, and outcome-based budgeting in terms of budget allocation process. Okay, so similar pattern of the exam question. So even I said similarity, but it's not any kind of similarities. Okay, in the context of budget allocation process, not only budget allocation, but the process of budget allocation. So because now you know what is budgeting technique, isn't it? So there is a process of budget allocation. In terms of programming, in terms of so how they can support with the current budget allocation process with the parliament and others in preparing the budget. Okay, right? And what are the similarities? So the suggested solution here: budget allocation is provided based on structure of programs and activities. I think this is the main. But still, I give you. I think for question number 3, for 1, I'm very flexible. Okay, I think almost. If your answer makes sense, I give you marks. Okay, I give you marks. I think very good attempt, some of you. Of course, these are suggested solution from me. I'm not going to give you all the answers, but for me, this is the best answer. But even then, I appreciate diverse answer, but as long as you can meet the need of the question, okay, I give you full marks as well. Some of you saying that, both of them, they are basically for budget allocation improvement. Okay, right? I accept as an answer. There are various other answers that get full marks. Okay, that's for number 1. Number 2, in the budgeting techniques, how to make sure that activities being budgeted are relevant to organization objective. Okay, so 2 marks. So either one, 2 marks. By conducting survey for target customers, want and needs. Okay, so I think that's the best. Because if you look at budgeting, and then the main budget for the government organization, they should provide relevant services for the target customers that they should conduct survey. Yeah? That's the best. You cannot tell how the users need, except you have to ask them. But I think maybe very few managed to mention this. Right, and okay, many provide the second answer, conducting evaluation of programs and activity within relevant interval period, 3 to 5 years. Okay, so I think many get this answer, okay, provide this answer. But many also, you mentioned about, they have strategic planning and operational planning for them to get the relevant. That if you answer that question, I still give you marks if I'm not mistaken, but of course, very minimal. But the question clearly mentioned in the budgeting techniques, okay? If you mention operational planning, strategic planning, this is beyond budgeting techniques, okay? Okay, because sometimes the agency, they have their long-term planning, right? But when it comes to their budget, it's basically annual budget. So they have to translate all those long-term planning with operational planning. and operational planning consistent, that become the basis for the budget. So if you mention that, I give you, because for me, there's also a sense of understanding. So I give you marks if you mention operational planning and strategic planning. But the question clearly mentioned budgeting techniques, okay? Whereas it's basically after the strategic planning. Okay, and then 3 state, 2 fixed head of expenditures. This one, I think the easiest question. Give you easiest but big marks, okay, 4 marks. So if you just state, I said state, not even explain. Okay, state means state. So if you state any of these 2, you get 4 marks. As simple as that. But I think many of you, almost all, get the answer. Get the answer right. Okay. Just state 2, but I think I appreciate many of you also you explain. But since I have to honor the question, just say state, not explain. Then by stating the item is, justify full marks. Right, and number, okay, any question? Or am I talking to myself only? Okay, right. Now we move on. Question 4. Explain 3 elements for designing effective budget control. This one is from the notes, directly from the notes. Okay, directly from the notes. So because, but I hope you don't cut and paste. So I hope you don't do that. Okay. So in the final exam also, I think the notes, I think you have to read before the exam. Accounting standards, yeah, I think accounting standards, I can allow you, I mean, you can definitely an open book for accounting standards, right? But these are the answers. Okay, effective budget control. Number 5, for budget control, explain self-accounting body status. This one require, that's why, it's good you listen to the, it's an example of, if you listen carefully to all the lecture, you manage to answer this. Explain self-accounting body. Government agencies securing self-accounting body status can develop its own accounting system and not relying on AG to provide accounting services, including for budget control, data collection, reporting, as well as preparing financial statements. Okay, agency only provide accounting policy and framework for the agencies. Okay, so I think many of you get the answer, maybe half. Or another half may not, not able to get the answer right. Yeah, I think many of you also mentioned giving example of statutory bodies. Yeah, the statutory bodies generally they are self-accounting body. Okay, you get it right. Okay, it's an example. I think that's all about the midterm exam. Okay, I think it's good you listen so that you can expect what would be the final. Similar pattern of asking questions. Okay, I mean it's more on understanding, listening carefully, and yeah, there is also issues of cut and paste. Okay, from the notes, but I hope you don't cut and paste. Between you and Allah. All right. Any question? Okay, so
final, so finals, all topics like from the first week in for finals.
Yeah. Okay, for final, the main emphasis is after the midterm. But there are also questions that you require your understanding before the midterm. Okay, so I leave it to you for your strategy to study. But if you totally ignore the topics before the midterm, I'm afraid that you may forget to answer, not be able to answer all the question. So, but the emphasis is more towards after the midterm. Okay. Next question. All right. No questions. Okay, what I'll do, I will finish in next class. I will finish off the topics, and then we can also have session exam. Yes, Tanvir, what do you want to ask? I think I stop sharing. Right. I think in the next class, I finish off the audit. But if we have remaining, you can also use the time, asking questions from, for exam purposes or whatever, from the previous topic if you're not sure the answer. Or, if you're not sure more clarification of the previous topics. I mean, I'm open. Either you want to have it during the class time or you want to have it, separately. Okay, there's a question here. Final exam will be answering the same style midterm. Yeah, same format. Same format. Same style is midterm, means question by question. Yes. Final also by modular. Modular. But more time, don't worry. Modular, because it's a 3 hours. And also you are given time for submission and also distribution of the question. So, but long time. I think more than enough. Because the question not that difficult. You can see in the midterm, I'm not sure what is your opinion. Some of the questions are very general, right? Some a bit specific. I mean, a combination. Or for you, everything is very general. Okay, so, but I think you need to know the details. At this point, possibly because you have undergone, for the 12 weeks, then you're also doing all your assignments. Hopefully, you have more ideas discussing, particularly on the management accounting. But for financial reporting, of course, it's very technical. Any mathematical question like journal or ledger? Secret. Possible, isn't it? Because we also discuss some exercise. How many questions in total? I think 4. 4 main questions. Yeah. 4 main questions. Okay. Any other? Right. If not, then I will end this. Okay. Thanks for listening. Before that, let me take all the attendance. Right, so I will end this with wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. If you have any individual issue, I will stay back for a few minutes. Okay, thank you.